What is going to be the first tip? 2 free ways to stay warm, do we think? I've already spoiled it because I've gone to the next slide several times, so I'll try to figure this out. Does anyone want to take a guess in the room? Put on your dressing gown. Brilliant. So the number one rule, the first rule that anyone will talk about when staying warm for free is going to be heat the person, not the room. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. I'll jump over here. So the first thing that you want to do is put on another layer. This is not branded. This is not that brand that you're thinking of. This is just a separate, very warm item of clothing that my mum got me. And I can tell you this is so warm that I can never wear it with the hood up because I overheat. And this is a really simple tip, but it's one that we all forget. How many times have you been standing in your house thinking it's bloody freezing today, and then you look down and you're not wearing any socks or a jumper. So even though it's really simple, the first tip is to put on another layer. And also remembering that most heat is lost through your extremities. So make sure you put on socks and slippers first. I'm not a beanie in the house type person, but if you are, that's great. Or a hoodie works as well. And thermals, leggings and tights can be worn under your pants as an extra layer. Natural fibers like wool are also going to keep you the warmest. Now this is a bit of a hiking tip. If anyone is really into hiking like I am, you're always told to take the clothes that you've been wearing when you go to bed. It's tempting to like wear your pajamas all day and just get into bed at the end of the day still wearing your pajamas. Don't do that, because when you sweat overnight, your pajamas are going to be colder. So you want to be airing out your pajamas and also your sheets and towels if you can be bothered, which I probably can't be bothered, but definitely your PJs. If you dry them out, they're going to be warmer at night. Get cozy, heat as small a space as possible. So close the doors to the room that you're in, which I'm not going to do today in case people are coming through late. Hi, how's it going? That was good timing. Come in, have a seat. If you're in your lounge room all day, close the doors to your lounge room. If you work from home, close the doors to your office. Basically, make the space that you're heating as small as possible. And in the same line, if you're working from home or studying from home, you can put a little heater under the desk or under the coffee table or something like that to create your own microclimate to really, heat up the little space that you're in. Another tip in line with that is to make sure that there's no furniture blocking your heating vents or your radiator if you have one. So pulling your furniture away from the walls and into the middle of the room and making sure that if you have vents in your lounge room, you don't have a couch over it. That's obviously going to make your heating a lot more efficient and keep you warmer as well. So now we get into a few personal heating devices. I don't know what you want to call them, device. Going old school with this one. Hot water bottles, heat packs, and electric throws are one of the most effective ways that you can keep them at home. So hot water bottles, they stay warm for hours for very little electricity, especially if you insulate them. So a couple of hot water bottle tips to make your most out of them. Never use boiling water because it can degrade the rubber. So make sure you turn your kettle off before it gets to boiling. Never use it with an electric blanket, because if it bursts and you've got an electric blanket on your bed, you can see what might happen there. And use a cover to keep the heat in. Now, I've got this furry cover. I don't know if people on Zoom can see me right now, possibly not. And if you have a cat, it will either love or be terrified of a cover like this. But what we used to do when I was a kid, just stop sharing my screen in case people on Zoom can see me. People on Zoom, can you see me even when the presentation's up? Can you just confirm that? Yes. Oh, thanks, Don. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I'll keep the presentation up then. Yeah. So what we used to do when I was a kid is just get a pillowcase, bonus points if it's flannelette, and put your hot water bottle inside and just fold it over. And then you don't burn your feet on it in bed. And it also keeps the hot water bottle warm for a lot longer. And don't overfill it. That's in line with not wanting to burst them. So another personal heating option is an electric throw blanket. These are super toasty and cozy. If anyone has used one, they will know how good they are. They're really cheap as well. They're only about $30, I think. So if you don't have one, it might be an idea to go out and get one. But obviously, if you leave them on for a really long time, they are using electricity that whole time. But what they're really good at is just put it on for 10, 20 minutes and it'll heat up and then it'll keep the heat for quite a long time. So you don't have to keep them running for very long. It's like that kickstart, similar to an electric blanket when you're going to bed. You know, you don't keep it on all night, you would boil to death. You just turn it on for 15 minutes before you get in, and then that's usually enough. Another option is a heat bag. Now, if you don't have a heat bag, I will show you how to make one. Here are some socks that I wore in high school. Perfect for this application. Here's some rice, not measured at all, just a random amount of rice. You get the sock, you pour the rice in, trying not to get it all over the floor. You tie the end. This is why these long socks work really well. And there you go, you got a heat bag. So microwave that for 2.5 minutes and it's going to stay hot for about half an hour before it starts to kind of cool down. I wouldn't eat the rice that you've put in here afterwards, and I would use a very clean sock. Otherwise, when you microwave it, you might regret it. Obviously, you can buy store-bought heat bags. There's a couple of local businesses that do them, but this is a really easy, quick way to do it at home. And there's a couple of tips on the best way to use heat bags as well. So there is a risk. Wish I could get that to go away. I don't know how to get it to go away. There is a risk of them catching on fire. So it's recommended that you don't heat one up and put it inside your bed, for example, because it will starve it of oxygen and it can start fires. So to mitigate that risk, if you put it in the microwave with a mug of water just next to it, it will actually hydrate it. So it's not getting dehydrated and will prevent any sparks, and don't leave it unattended in a bed. Now, here are some cost per use comparisons. So a heat pack, just looking at the electricity usage that it takes to heat up these different personal heating items. So a heat pack, if you microwave it for 3 minutes, it costs you 1 cent. But keeping in mind that these only stay hot for about half. Electric blanket uses about 4 cents of electricity per hour. Again, keeping in mind that if you only run it for 15 minutes to half an hour, it's about 1 cent to 2 cents per use as well. A hot water bottle costs 6 cents if you let the kettle boil all the way. And a hot water bottle, it can stay warm for hours, especially if you're insulating it like this, you know, all night if you're using it at night, really. So even though 6 cents looks a bit higher, these really hold their heat a lot better than heat pack. And then a space heater is about 15 cents per hour. So you can see, comparing using one of those heated throw blankets, even if you use it for an hour, compared to having a space heater on, which, you know, sometimes struggles to heat up the room, it's a lot cheaper to be actually heating your body directly rather than trying to heat the whole room. And putting on more clothes is free. Now I'm going through a lot of tips today, but I will be sharing, I've put them into a Word document of a checklist. So you can take this home, and when you're feeling freezing at home, you can go through this and make sure that you've done all these things. Yes, question? It will be put online, yeah. So after the session, I will be putting it on the Smart Living Ballarat Facebook page for people to download, and then you can print it and work through it at home. I've got a lot of tips to go through today, so if it feels like I'm really like going through them and you're like, I'm never going to remember all of this, don't worry, the checklist is there. So biggest rule number 2, keep the heat in. You want to keep the heat that you have, especially if you're paying for heating. You don't want it all escaping out of your house. Now, the biggest, most effective tip here is to open your curtain when the sun comes up and close them when the sun goes down. It's the easiest thing you can do. You're using the sun, which is free heating. Thank you, sun. And it's really important to close them before the sun goes down, but also to close them when they're in shade. So especially on the south side of your house, you might find that you're not getting much sun at all. If any, on that side of your house, you might decide to keep your curtains closed all day, just depending on how much light you've got coming in. But definitely on the north side of your building, open them up, east side when the sun comes up, and make sure your west curtains are open when the sun sets, because that's really warm, delicious sun. Here's another tip to make the best use of the sun. You can put mirrors next to your windows to reflect light into your room. That'll depend on what windows and what mirrors you have. And another tip is to put plant pots on your windowsills, because they will soak up the sun and radiate it back into the room. So especially effective is going to be terracotta pots, or that kind of ceramic that's going to soak up the sun. Make sure you have plants that like warmth and sunlight, or else they might overheat. So you've got to be careful what plants are in them. Here's a tip for people with radiators. I don't have a radiator personally, but if you do, you can make the most of the heat by putting a piece of cardboard covered in foil behind your radiator, and that's going to reflect heat back into the room rather than it being lost out through the wall, especially if you live in an old house in Ballarat that may not have any wall insulation whatsoever. If you've got a little bit of a budget, you can get store-bought versions of these that are going to be more effective. But if you want to test it out at home for free first, a piece of cardboard cut to the right size, covered with foil, is going to do the trick. If you have a portable heating source, put it in the middle of the room, so you're making most of all of the heat that it's putting out. So same with the radiator. If you have a wall heater or column heater up against the wall, a lot of the heat is going to be going into the wall and being lost. Whereas if you put it in the middle of the room, you're getting the most of the 360 heating effect. The one exception to this might be if you have a brick house. If you have a heater next to a brick wall, the brick wall will soak up the heat and radiate it back into the room. So it depends what house you have, but if you have an old weatherboard Ballarat house, get your heaters away from the walls. Now, this is a neat trick that I see mentioned a lot. I don't have a spray bottle today, otherwise I was going to show you, but you can DIY double glazing using bubble wrap. And bubble wrap, most people have quite a bit at home, maybe from packaging. If you don't have it at home, you can most likely get it for free from a business that has a lot of packaging left over from their deliveries. You'll always have one smooth side and one side with the bubbles and the spaces. You want to put the side with the bubbles towards the window so that you're also getting the air in between the bubbles as insulation. So you have the smooth side towards you. Get a spray bottle just filled with water, spritz your window, and just stick it up. Now that's totally removable when it comes to Warmer weather, just peel it off the window. Don't leave it on there for years and years because you might see a buildup of condensation or mold behind it. You do want to be taking it off seasonally, but it's not the most attractive thing, so I think you probably will remember to take it off in summer. And we have some bubble wrap for people that are here in person. If you want to go home and try this, we've got some bubble wrap if you want to take any home. This is less about staying warm and maybe more of a power saving tip. You can fill a thermos or use a keep cup at home. So you only need to boil the kettle once a day. I drink my coffee really slowly. I'm a bit sensitive to caffeine. So I use a keep cup at home quite a lot to just have a big coffee that will last me like 6 hours because I really don't drink it that quickly. If you have hardwood floors or tile or concrete, you're probably gonna know how freezing it is, especially if you're not wearing slippers at home. So one big thing that you can do to improve your insulation on your floor, other than obviously putting insulation under your floor, is to use rugs or blankets on the floor to keep you warm. So especially in living areas like your lounge room and that kind of thing. And if you do have that thick rug, shag rug, that's going to be your best bet because it's going to have a lot of insulative properties. You can also hang your jackets. If you've got these back of the door hooks, make sure you've got all your winter jackets piled up there, or even just hang them on your doorknobs to give extra insulation to your doorways and the gaps around your doorways. And you can also just hang blankets or curtains over windows and doorways. There seemed to be a real trend of taking out all of the doors in houses. My brother owns a house in Wendouree. It's an old Ballarat house, but somebody decided, the previous owner decided it was a great idea to take all the doors out for optimum, you know, open plan living, even though it's absolutely not open plan living. So he had to put curtains up in between doorways because especially his house has an uninsulated add-on sunroom at the back, as do a lot of Ballarat houses, and it's absolutely freezing. There's no insulation in the add-on at all. So curtains are a really easy way to do that if you don't want to be re-hanging doors in your house, or you can also just tack blankets up if you want to as well. Yeah, sure. You can also hang blankets on walls or get these rug hangings or hang rugs on walls if you want to. That adds another layer of insulation. Mirrors, photos, and even posters all add insulation to your wall. So the more stuff up there, the better. A maximalist like me is going to be happy about that because I have a lot of art and photos up everywhere. And I just want to, this is the next slide. Another thing you can do to insulate your walls without adding wall insulation, which is very difficult and expensive to do, is rearrange your furniture. So as I mentioned before, the sun goes across the north of the sky in Ballarat or in the southern hemisphere. So the south side of your house is not going to get much sun at all, if any. So moving your bookshelves or wardrobes or that kind of storage to the south side of your house is going to actually add a lot of insulation to that cold wall. And here's a heat map to prove it. So on the left, you can see that's a framed picture. So you wouldn't think of a framed picture really adding any insulation, but you can see the difference in temperature there. And on the right, that is rows of books on a bookshelf. So in red is the row of books, and then the blue is the cold wall behind the books. So you can see how much difference that actually makes, because when you think about it, you're adding a foot of insulation to your wall just by having a bookcase on the south side of the building. Another little tip, leave your oven door open to release the heat from your cooking into the room. Does anyone else do this? Yeah. You can also do it with a dishwasher and even the shower. Leave the shower door open, leave the bathroom door open. That's also going to be good in winter for getting rid of that condensation in your bathroom, spreading it out. Obviously, if you have little kids and you've got a low oven, don't leave your oven open with kids around. Same with the dishwasher, and pets as well. If you leave the dishwasher open, your pet's probably going to, you know, check out what's in there. But if that's not a problem, yeah, just leave them open and release the heat into the room. You may as well use it. This is a tip that I worked out myself because I have a very heavy, it's not a weighted blanket, but it's very heavy. And if I put it over my doona, it actually squashes my doona flat and it's not as warm because you're losing all the air, the insulation there. So what I do instead now is I put the heavy blanket under. So I have a sheet, I have a top sheet, then a really heavy blanket, and then the doona, because then the doona stays nice and fluffy and has maximum insulation. The other thing you can do, if you don't have an electric blanket, you can actually just put a normal blanket under your bottom sheet on your bed, and that's going to insulate you nicely on top of your mattress. Obviously, if you have an electric blanket, you don't need that because you're going to be doubling up and it's going to get weird. But if you don't have an electric blanket, that's a good tip. This is just a little thing that you might want to check. Obviously, it's expensive to add roof insulation, but you might want to just go up in your roof and check it. Because a lot of the time, if you have trades come in, electricians, people like that, that are working in your roof, and it might have happened before you bought the house, so you might have not have known about it. Sometimes they move it to get to whatever they're doing and they don't put it back. So you could have areas of your roof that don't have any insulation. It's just been chucked in the corner or something like that. So it's worth just getting up in your manhole and having a look at the state of your insulation. And it might be as simple as just moving a few bits back into place. Rule number 3, stop the drafts. Now, this is a big one. This is the one that gets talked about probably the most. And in Ballarat, there's going to be a lot of drafty houses. And you can actually use a candle to find drafts. So if you light a candle and just, you know, go around your window frames, go around your door frames, even floorboards are a common culprit in Ballarat. You can see the flame flicker where air's coming in. You should be able to feel it. Usually you can just feel it where the cold air is coming in. But if you want to get real detailed about it, that's a trick you can do at home. Use draft excluders under all your doorways and windowsills. They're really cheap, they're instant and reusable. So a door excluder like this is about $4. But this is free ways to stay warm. So $4 is too much money, right? We want a free way to stay warm. So how about a towel? Clothes, towels, blankets, they can all be used as an instant draft excluder under your door frame or under your windowsill as well. Or I'm going to show you how to make one. So I went to my mum's house just this morning because I knew she would have a collection of these. She's just that kind of gal. All you need is 2 cardboard tubes. These are the innards of wrapping paper and a pair of tights. Next time you get a hole in your tights, don't throw them away. Keep them. And all you do is you put, now a pair of tights is actually going to make 2 draft excluders. I'll show you why. So you put both cardboard rolls in the same leg. You might be able to do this with socks if you have really long socks. Now, people online are not going to be able to watch this next bit, but I am going to slide this under the door here. So both tubes in one leg. Now this door is very far off the ground. We put one roll on either side. It's a very drafty door. There you go. One roll on either side of the door. And then, this door has got too much of a gap underneath it, but it stays on the door when you close it. This might be a better one. Oh, I think it's locked actually. Yeah, that's locked. Anyway, you get the idea. Either side under the door, and it moves with the door. So you don't have to, like a door snake, you've got to keep putting it back in position every time. This will actually stay on the door. And you basically just tie the end, and then you can use the other leg to do another one somewhere else. You could get really fancy and use like patterned, colourful tights if you want to. I just have a million pairs of old black tights. Tape up your window cracks to stop drafts getting in. Now, you can do this with fit for purpose store-bought tape, or you can just do it with gaffer tape or even masking tape if that's what you've got in your house. Anything is going to be better than nothing. If you're a homeowner, you can get the gap filler that's quite cheap and use that to fill your gaps. You might be able to do that also if you're a renter. Maybe check with your landlord first, although I don't know why they would stop you from improving the value of their house, but maybe check just in case. Another non-free tip, don't worry, there aren't many non-free tips. I've really kept them to a minimum. Draft excluder strips are really cheap and they're removable as well. You can get removable ones if you're renting. My husband has, in the past, in a rental, put draft excluder strips everywhere. And then when they were moving out, he offered, do you want us to take them away? And they asked them, no, please don't, please leave them there, because it improves the house. So why wouldn't they want it? DIY pelmet. Here's another really simple thing that you can do. If you have curtains and they come out from the wall, you've got the curtain rod out from the wall, you can just drape a scarf or a towel or a sheet over the top, and you're going to block the top from all the cold air coming in. Obviously, if you are a homeowner, you could build a pelmet pretty easily, but this is a really instant, quick way to do that. Just put something over the curtain rod. Along the lines of closing off the rooms that you're in that we talked about before, you can also hang curtains over doorways and stairwells as well. My mum lives in a 2-story house and she constantly had trouble keeping her house warm because all the air would rush up the stairwell to the 2nd story and be lost. And the lounge room was at the bottom of the stairs. So she added a curtain and it's completely different. We can actually warm the living area now rather than just be freezing. So if you have a stairwell in your house, that's really important to close it off as soon as possible. And usually, even if you can't put a door there, you can put a curtain, depending on if you've got a huge open stairwell, you might not be able to close it off, but most you should be able to. Rule number 4, reverse summer. This is a very cryptic name for this rule. I didn't know a better way to refer to it, but if you have a ceiling fan, pretty much all of them can be reversed. So instead of pulling hot air up, you can flick a switch either on the switch or sometimes they're up on the fan itself. You should be able to reverse it so that it can push hot air back down into the room. Along similar lines, a lot of people don't realise that their air conditioner is also a heater. Most reverse cycle or split system air conditioners also have a heating function, and it's one of the most efficient heating options that there is. So if you have one of these at home, don't forget that it can heat your room as well. So all it takes is just reversing the use. Don just said the slides are not changing. Somebody want to confirm whether the slides are changing on Zoom? I'm hoping that. Oh, they're fine. Thank you. Thanks. Another little tip, if you have one of those types of heating systems, make sure that you're cleaning or replacing your filters. Now, most of the time, this is as simple as just pulling it out and vacuuming it and putting it back in. That's going to improve the efficiency of your heater a lot. I should make sure that this is showing me. Why is that not showing me? Sorry, I'm having some struggles with Zoom today, aren't I? No, it's gone to not show me as the default. Is that really big and annoying? Yes, it is. Oh, pin. Yeah, cool. There we go. Now, I don't know about anyone else who's here in the room, but I am boiling right now. Are you hot? Are you warm? Most of you are. So we're in Sabas Library right now. And this is my next tip, which is if your house is super freezing, go out. This is what I do in summer because I don't have air conditioning. You can go to the movies or you go to a shopping centre, you make the most of their aircon. Well, you can do the opposite in winter and go to libraries or shopping centres or those kind of public spaces that are going to have their heating on and hang out there. Rule number 5. Okay, cool. Rule number 5 is to use your own body heat. So we are cranking out heat most of the time as humans. And similar to the keep your heat in rule, we can actually generate more heat ourselves. So this is probably the last thing you feel like doing when you're sitting at home freezing in your house, but get up and get active, clean the house, even if it's for 10 minutes, exercise, dance to a song or two. The way I like to do this is to take off my jumper or take off my hoodie so that you're cold. Get really active, do a blitz, declutter, whatever for 10, 15 minutes, and then put your jumper back on, and then you're going to retain that heat that you've just created. Another tip is to heat up from the inside by drinking hot drinks and hot meals. I say as I'm drinking cold water. Actually, that's another tip. Don't drink chilled water. You know, people that always have the jug of water in their fridge and they're always drinking chilled water. I don't know how people do that in winter. That's going to cool your internal core temp down. Don't do that. Drink hot drinks, have hot meals like soups or curries, and warm yourself up from the inside. This is something that I used to do when I was in high school. I don't know if anyone else does this. When you get up in the morning, put the clothes that you're going to wear that day in your bed because your bed's going to be nice and warm. You go have a shower, you come back, the chill's taken off, so you're not putting on freezing cold clothes. And in the inverse, put your pajamas inside your bed and turn your electric blanket on, or you've got your hot water bottle or your heat pack, wrap that all up in your bed while you go brush your teeth, that kind of thing, and then come back and put them on. Just help you may as well warm up your pajamas and your bed at the same time. And my favorite tip, obviously, share your body heat with a friend, family member, pet. I have 2 cats on me every night trying to vie for the best lap position, and my lap is always super toasty, very nice and warm. So now I've got some tips that are semi-related to keeping warm, but a lot of them are just power saving tips for overwinter as a bit of a bonus. Turn off your heating when you go out or when you're asleep. A lot of people with central heating think, oh, it's going to be cheaper if I just leave it on all the time because you don't have the pilot light, you know, firing up. But there have been studies done that it is cheaper to turn it off overnight and if you're going out for a long time. If you're not going out for very long, keep it on, keep it low, just so the pilot light is keeping on working. But don't you don't need to have it blasting all of the time. And obviously, if you don't have central heating, none of that applies. Just turn it off when you're not using it. Turning your thermostat down just by 1 degree can save 3% on your energy bill. So I think the recommended temperature is about 19 degrees. So you don't need it much hotter than that, especially with all these tips. You shouldn't need it much hotter than that, but don't have it much lower than that either, unless you're going out or going to sleep or that kind of thing. But yeah, if you're the kind of person that has it cranked up to 22, maybe consider turning it down a degree or 2. Another power saving tip is unplug and switch off your devices, especially chargers, as they draw power when you're not even using them. I'm very sensitive to hearing electronic buzz. So I tend to unplug most things anyway, because otherwise I can hear it, especially our induction cooktop. It buzzes when it's turned on. But chargers especially, so if you have a charger plugged into the wall, even if you don't have anything plugged into the charger will be drawing power that entire time. So just make sure that you turn them off at the wall or unplug them. Now this is in direct competition with the tip that I shared earlier. This is the inverse of only filling your kettle with as much water as you need. So unless you're doing that tip of filling up a thermos of hot water, only fill your kettle with as much as you need. So with a hot water bottle, that might be about half a kettle. If you're just making a cup of tea, literally just a cup of water or whatever the minimum on your kettle is, because the time that it takes and the power that it takes is going to be much higher if you have it full and then you're not even using it all. Also another tip, if you're a tea drinker, use the kettle after you boil it, because so many people boil the kettle, forget about it, walk away for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then come back to it and it's lukewarm. Oh, boil it again. You know, I mean, that's hard to change habits. But put an alarm on your phone or something. I don't know. Try not to walk away and then come back and reboil it 5, 6 times. Now, this might be something that you can do. It might not be, but worth considering. Lowering your water heater temp. So the minimum it can be is 60 degrees. You don't want it any lower than that because you have a risk of bacteria and algae and that kind of thing. But you really don't need it any hotter than that. So a lot of people's water heaters are even limited to 50 degrees when it comes out of the tap and 60 degrees. So 60 degrees is the storage temperature. So that might just be worth checking what your water heater is set to. If your fridge is full, or if you find that you're pulling food out and it's freezing, it means that your fridge is up too high. So every fridge has that range between cooler and coldest, I think is what my fridge is called. So if your fridge is full, you don't actually need it turned up all the way. You can turn it down to the minimum. Although if you empty it, remember to turn it back up again, or make sure it's always full. So obviously you don't need to go to this extreme. This is just an amusing example. But especially your freezer, it's going to run at the max efficiency if it's full. So you can make sure it's filled up with those ice packs, or if you don't have as many ice packs as you need, you can just fill up water bottles with water. Now, I don't recommend you go out and buy bottled water for this. You can just use reusable water bottles and that kind of thing. This is also a really good tip because if the power goes out and you have heaps of ice in your freezer, it's going to keep your freezer cold, rather than if you just had food in your freezer, the power goes out, it's going to warm up much quicker. Not saying the power is going to go out, cross your fingers, but it's just a good idea to think about how empty your fridge or freezer is. And if it's super empty, it might be worth just bulking it up a bit with some water bottles. This is a contentious one. Try and keep your showers to 5 minutes and consider showering less. that's contentious because people don't like to talk about showering less. Obviously, it depends what you do for a job. It depends how much you go to the gym, that kind of thing. But personally, if I'm just working from home, I don't shower every day. I used to have a housemate that showered 3 times a day, which was actually vaguely acceptable because he was a plumber and he went to the gym every day. So he had to shower after work because he was filthy. And then he had to shower after the gym because he was sweaty. And then the third shower was he got up so early because he was a plumber. He got up at like 5:30 in the morning. So his rationale for that one was he needed a shower to wake up in the morning. I'd probably cut that down by the morning shower personally, but that just goes to show that obviously it's entirely personal of how often you need to shower, but just have a think about it. And if you can shower less, it's going to be a big power saving. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, just a quick refresh. Yeah. Yeah, bit of dry shampoo. Yeah. I've got a whole hair. I only wash my hair twice a week. So I've got a whole hair roster of like, I washed it this morning, so I have it out. Tomorrow I'll have it half up. The next day I'll have a ponytail. The next day I'll wash it. So depending on when you see me, that's how long it's been since I washed my hair. Not necessarily how long since I showered, by the way, just wash my hair. Along the same lines, washing your clothes, also consider how often you need to wash things. You don't need to wash a t-shirt every time you wear it. You can wear a t-shirt a couple of times, depending on obviously if you're getting it dirty. I've got goats and I have clothes that I go out and check on the goats because I know that they're going to rub their head on my legs and they're going to, yeah. So I have my goat clothes. Then I have my house clothes, I've got pajamas. I might have, 4 or 5 sets of clothes going at once and then, wash them as needed. Also with sheets, wash your pillowcases more than you wash your sheets. Pillowcase is going to get dirty a lot quicker. This is usually pretty easy to do because most sheet sets all come with pillowcases. So you buy one set and it's got sheets and pillowcases. You buy another set, it's got doona pillowcases. So you end up with twice as many pillowcases as you do sheets, which is perfect if you're washing them twice as often. And when you wash your clothes, use cold water only. I've used cold water only washing my clothes my entire life. I've only had colours bleed once, and that was something blue that then turned all of the white things in that wash a nice, even pale blue. And then I just had pale blue clothes. It's fine. That's happened many, many years ago. Nothing else bad has happened other than that. I don't separate my colours and whites. I throw everything all together, and I've only had a problem once ever. It's also better for your clothes. So heat has the potential to shrink your clothes. It also makes them wear out faster. So use cold water, halves your energy use, and it's better for your clothes. Air drying is also better. I think most of us air dry in Australia. Dryers are not such a thing here as they are in America and some other countries. We all grew up with the Hills hoist, so I think we're mostly used to doing this. But air drying clothes is free, it prevents shrinkage and extends their life. One point with this is drying them inside may or may not be a good idea depending on your house. So if your house is super sealed, drying them inside is going to give a lot of moisture, condensation. You might get mold issue over winter. Because unlike the rest of the world, we have wet winters and dry summers. Most of the rest of the world have wet summers, dry winters. We don't have that here, we have wet winters. So condensation might be an issue, just keep an eye on it. If you have a wood heater, that's not going to be a problem because wood heaters suck a lot of the moisture out of the air. So if you have a wood fire heater, dry your clothes in front of the heater and it balances out nicely the drying effect and the moisture. So depends what you've got going on at home. This is a graph just to really demonstrate the percentage of energy use. So as you can see, 40% of energy use is spent on heating and cooling. So if you implement a lot of these tips, hopefully we can get that down. And then appliances, we've briefly mentioned unplugging stuff when you're not using it. Water heating, we've mentioned only using cold water in your washing machine. That's going to lower that a lot. And obviously less showers, shorter showers. That's up to you. Lighting, most people are moving to LED lights. So that's, that's good, hopefully going further down. And cooking is a small portion of it as well. But as you can see, the vast majority of household usage of power and electricity and gas is heating and cooling. Tim Forsey made a good point on a post of mine this morning.